Okay, Mr. Blasey, we are live.
All right, thank you. So we're right at 6. Hal, you want to kick off finance for us?
Everybody's going to be going off.
School's calling. That was me. I set up a message about the community survey to go out tonight.
Thanks, Doug.
Well, I thought either 6 or 6:30. If I do it at 6:30, it'll interrupt right in the middle. So maybe if I catch it right at the beginning. Might as well blow the beginning instead. Yeah. All right. But I've placed 2 additional registers in your folder too. Yeah. Yeah. Two from today. It should be in the very back. You want a copy, or did you get it? You find it? Here you go. There you go.
Now he has 5.
I'll give you mine to look at.
Okay, good. Thanks, Doug. I looked at that, and somewhere in here, Doug, I had a question. Some area we spent 900% of the money we had budgeted.
Oh, it's probably because of the. Here, that's that. Oh, look.
I had it on my computer, but I don't have it there. It was only like $5,000 or $6,000, but I just wondered what it was.
Yeah, in that budget summary, you know, it goes by the function. So generally we're in line, but if you have an item that, let me look.
Because in the first set you sent us out. Oh, there it is.
I got it.
It was under my account. You found it?
Yeah, support services.
Yeah, that's what it was.
400, it'd be professional services. We had budgeted 674 and we spent 6198. I'd have to look at that.
Okay, no, not a big deal, but it just stuck out to me that 900% more than we budgeted.
Yeah, but the total for the 2100s is only 35% for this year.
Yeah.
So we're still under, and I'm betting that was, if it's services, it was probably, well, I don't want to make a wild stab.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
I just noticed that and wondered if it was a mistake or a.
Yeah, so I'll just explain that board summary is essentially the budget. And for each of the, you have all this detail, but it goes the 100s, 200s. 100s are salary, payroll. 200s are benefits. 300s are services. 400s are like professional contracted. 500s can be everything from transportation to postage. 600s are supplies. 700s are equipment, capitalized equipment. 800s are dues and fees. So that's how those are broken out. And then when I say function, like the 1110s are your basic educational, like your regular classes. Your 1200s are your special ed services, and then you kind of move down through those. And what I do is I compare multiple years of the percentages, and using that, see where we are is, in comparison to other years and what our performance is.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions on that? Cafeteria fund? I saw that too. I assume, are we still feeding everybody?
Yes, we are. We're still under that seamless summer option. Like I said, that program was created to provide meals in the summer, but since it was a program that was already established for USDA, they're just using that for these last 2 years throughout the COVID to provide meals at no cost. I don't say free, because free is when someone qualifies as free based on economic association, but it's no cost from USDA. So we're actually getting subsidy for every meal that we serve.
Okay. Any questions on that? Building fund, we got that in our packet here.
Yep.
Does that have anything?
No, just interest this year, or
Okay.
this month.
Thank you. Capital projects fund.
The only thing we have this month is just
That bill for $3,000 or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you see there's almost 1.4 million in that fundraiser.
Yeah. Anybody else? Activity fund, I didn't see anything there unusual. Anybody else? No. Athletic fund, I had a question. I saw there was expenses for basketball and soccer and a whole bunch of sports, but there was no expenses for wrestling. Is it free this year? On that?
Yeah, I haven't gotten any expense reports. So I don't know whether maybe they didn't get uniforms this year. I mean, I know basketball did.
Yeah, but this wasn't uniforms. This was.
Like transportation?
I don't even think it was transportation. I wish it'd be a lot easier if I could bring that up on my computer instead of shuffling through all these papers. But yeah, it's that section where it says.
Well, for a lot of your game workers and all of that, we do that at the end of quarter. And then the transportation, it's whenever they turn in their transportation sheets.
Yeah, but this wasn't either of those, I didn't think. But it could have been game workers. I
have it up here. I don't know what page you were on. Do you?
Well, it's a page. It's the athletic fund report.
All right, hang on.
I just thought it was funny that wrestling wasn't on there, since it's a winter sport and going on now. Yeah, it might have been after that one. That's all the activities.
This, or are you talking
Very next one? Yeah, right there it is, Doug.
No. Yeah, it's, unless it's something that's spent out, like Denise has track of, a lot of our other expenses we do at end of quarter. So I guess we just didn't, it just wasn't prepared at that time.
Okay.
I don't have any answer for that.
Yep. No. Just stuck out to me because there's soccer on there, and as well, we're up past soccer season, and they still have expenses, and wrestling or junior high wrestling's on there. Basketball's on there, right? Girls and boys. Yeah. Okay. And the elementary activity fund, I didn't have any questions on that. Anthony, you have anything at all?
Nope, I didn't see, I didn't see girls basketball in here either. Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. Nope, I'm just trying to follow along with you, Hal.
Okay, well, I just thought that was funny that wasn't on there. Check registers, obviously this $913,000 isn't right? We had two more.
Yeah, yes, that were included in your,
Yeah, one in our package and,
yeah, one for $24,213.74 and another for $40,040.10.
okay. Okay, Northern Tier budget, I'm sure you went over that, Doug. Our number of students increased. I was just at the meeting, or there are number of opportunities
Yes.
increased, which, that surprises me.
Well, I think since they were expanding their program, they were looking for additional students to
Yeah, I
take
mean,
this year.
we soon can close the high school for half a day soon. Won't be any students. We have put 37 of them at the Votech school. I just looked at the PIAA thing for our next year. We have 67 boys in grades 10 through 12 next year if you're interested. 37 of them go to the Votech school, or a lot of them.
There's some girls that go up there too.
Do. But I'm just saying, 67 boys is many, and they want 37 to go up there from 32. Anybody have questions on the Northern Tier budget? IU budget. I was at that meeting a couple weeks ago too, and if you've looked at that, they charge us nothing. It's all for services rendered.
Mhm.
They haven't charged the schools since I think 1987, and I don't even think we belonged to them then. So the whole time we've been up there, they only any questions on that budget?
How do they acquire their funding, Hal?
Services rendered. They if we need a special teacher or something, or a counselor of some kind, we pay them so much money, and then they use that money to pay the people, and they have they get state aid and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I see they have fund balance summary for general operations and things like that, and I see numbers in there. It's like, well, how are they getting it if they're not charging us?
Yeah,
Makes sense.
they don't charge us anything. I mean, they charge us lots,
But they
but
pay
they
on a
don't.
service base.
We pay on a service basis, not on a lump sum basis. Anything else on that? And the MHE auditorium payment, that's at $3,000 we were talking about, Doug, right? Something
Yes.
like that. We're almost done with them then, except for things they're never going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll not charge us unless they have activity now. Unlike the other project, they're just, as they need to process payroll for the auditorium. And yeah, we're just waiting on those few parts now. So. Yes.
Anybody have any other?
Mr. Stockdale, just in regard to the increase in number of students at NTCC, they have a new program, the early childhood program. That's probably where the number went up.
Yeah. So. And if we don't use them all, somebody else uses them or can use them. So it's not.
And it works the same way. They give us so many spots in each area. And if another school doesn't use theirs and we have more kids that want to be participate in that program, we can use theirs as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So we good on finance?
Yep.
We did condense the time so we don't have to wait, but I do want to bring up real quick again the committee format that we talked about at last meeting. We were intended for it to be January, but it's going to be February. So January will be our last committee of the whole meeting, second Tuesday of the month. The goal is going to be, so finance, for example, and just to recap for everyone, including any of the folks that are watching, is the committee meetings that are designed to bring open discussion dialogue from the public, from the committees, which it's actually doing. So there's sort of a lot going on with different committees that are bringing forth, because we split it out. They can have meetings. All the committees are basically segmented with no more than 4 board members. So they're engaging with stakeholders. So starting next month, these meetings will either not be held, maybe on a monthly basis. For example, transportation. There's really nothing going on right there. So there's no sense in just having a meeting to have a meeting. What I see in the future, what the board sees in the future, is that the finance discussion from a committee meeting will be essentially spawned from the planning process of futuristic goals, facility planning, curriculum planning, whatever spend is there. As we said before, most of what's on the agenda and has been on the agenda for many months, and in some cases even years, it's necessity style conversation. So the things that show up on the finance agenda currently are their necessity. They're bills that need to be paid, AR, AP, whatever exists that just has to happen. So in the future, that's what we're going to do. I don't think anyone's emotionally attached to that change. So we're going to try it for a while, see how it works out, see how the communication flows. And then we can sort of circle back on it after a couple of months. If we feel like, hey, I feel disconnected, maybe once a quarter, we'll have a committee of the whole meeting. That's fine. We're also not intending to meeting everyone to death, because I know Hal had a solid point, and that is, okay, now we have to have 9 meetings per month. That's not really the intent. We can piggyback some of those meetings together. They can be held over the phone. Maybe there's no need for a meeting. There's just can be some communication. But what I think we want to try to achieve is not necessarily have this meeting as an agenda review, but more of a futuristic planning to say, hey, here are the things that we need to talk about, so we can sort of back that schedule up. So things that we are talking about either this month or in February are likely things where there's going to be decisions made either 30, 60, 90 days from then. Or if it's a huge capital project in regards to facility, it might be a year from now. But if we're going to do anything to this structure or the campus, if we don't start talking about it now, it'll be 2 years before we can even thinking about collecting the right funding or securing the appropriate funding to do anything of any major intent. Make sense? So I think that if it's not really, I know Doug had some of the language from
and it's in your folders.
So we will propose a motion next Tuesday to get that rolling and adjust the schedule and adjust the calendar so the public understands. And again, I encourage anyone that is listening from the public view is that as we collect any inquiries, complaints, great ideas, whatever it is, we're going to direct you to the chair of those committees, and then that will establish some of the agenda items that we're going to start discussing, whether actionable or not. And then one last thing is, during these committee meetings, when they're not committee of the whole, no action can be taken. So we can't vote on anything. We can't make any major decisions. We can't sign a contract. They're literally just discussions to be brought forth in a setting where either there's a fuller meeting or there's a quorum where we can actually make a decision or move on something. So that's all.
Mr. Blassie, as administrators, will you just be reaching out to us through those committees if you have questions or?
Yeah, I think it would be, I would say full engagement on there. It wouldn't necessarily just be reach out if we have a question. I think the intent is to have you as almost an ongoing stakeholder member, because although the board based on Sunshine can't have more than 4 members, we're not restricted. We could have 16 people from the public attend a meeting and that doesn't change anything. So our intent is that the administration's not going to be we feel that you need to be included in those communications, not just, hey, we'll talk to you when we need you. That's not the intent at all. Yep.
Perfect.
So are they going to be in the same day?
That would be up to the chair. I think the goal here is to generate conversation. I am a broken record on this, but I'm just going to tell you from because I sat through them for 4 years. The Tuesday committee of the whole meetings are an agenda review meeting. It was rare, and I can ask some of the prior board members, it was very, very rare that we sat through those committee of the whole meetings where either A, there was public attendance where there was a major issue or idea, doesn't have to be an issue, or there was actually a proposed change to the agenda. It was basically like, hey, what do you think of the agenda? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we had the meeting the second Tuesday. What we're trying to generate is the planning process. So I'll jump ahead a little, but we need to work through, which Mary Lisa is going to talk about, the onboarding process and then the superintendent search, onboarding of legal counsel. And then from there, we're going to do start out likely with a board retreat and then start to integrate communication with a comprehensive plan and then sort of like thoughts on ideas, facility review. I know Mr. McMahon and I chatted a little bit in the hallway. You could probably make a list a mile long of needs. We should probably get that list visible somewhere and go, okay, there's 100 things on it. Here's 3 that we're going to work on. Otherwise, we'll just, so.
I wonder if next week, if we can start to compare notes about committee meetings and how often we think we might have to meet. Cause different people are on different committees, but the administration wants to be involved, potentially with all the different committees. That's
Right.
a lot of meetings for them. So I want to be mindful of the ask we're making of admin as well. And so just kind of coordinate about how often we're meeting when that's happening so we can keep the ask reasonable.
I totally agree. Anthony, you want to take it away on athletics and health?
No problem. One item is the approval of an athletic training services agreement with UPMC Sports Medicine. The contract seemed pretty nice. It seems like there's an easy out for either party if an issue arises, and they cover quite a bit for us. So, does anybody have any questions, concerns with it?
How does it compare salary-wise to the year before?
It's right in line. There's a small increase, but UPMC actually subsidizes a significant portion of that program. So we're only paying for a portion of her service cost.
I was reading in there, so some of the training that we do here is provided through them, correct? And that covers it underneath that contract. So like the concussion protocol and things like that.
Yep, she does that, and she does first aid CPR, the AED training. And then for that committee, I had one additional that administration brought up, a motion that administration may make a recommendation regarding an assistant baseball coach. So I think some members of that committee may have been contacted about some.
Not yet, but we will.
Okay.
We have time. The applications are due Thursday. So
Okay. So they'll be contacted for interview scheduling.
Do you have applicants right now to interview?
not yet, but we have two potential that we hear might be coming.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually I didn't realize I was gonna bring that up as well. Not that, pour salt in the wound as far as timing goes, but, we definitely need to figure out and I don't know, recruit and get the air horns out and see if we can find some help for Taylor, because like currently the other districts, they're already practicing.
Yep.
Or running, trainings, weight trainings, strength trainings, because I know a couple of the coaches. And I did talk to Taylor. He's trying to actively recruit on his own.
Yes.
Which is I don't know that that he's finding any full commitments. So I know that's not helping the process because I don't have 10 names to give you, but I think somehow we've got to try to help the guy out because he wants to get started, but it's pretty hard when he doesn't have a sidekick. Do you guys have you heard of it? I mean, I don't know that we necessarily bring up any names, but if you have ideas of people that you could reach out to, please do so. Put them in contact, either with Taylor or the admin or athletic director.
Anything else? So another thing that touched base on Gabe said was our athletic director is leaving us at the end of this season. So we have talked about that role and things of that nature. There used to be there was a job description that was put forth years ago with assistant principal and athletic director combined role. We briefly viewed it as a committee. There's been some changes, Doug. I don't know if that's something we're going to bring up or something we're going to move forward with. How do we want to go about doing this?
Yeah,
at some point, it's got to get brought up in a committee to actually bring this to fruition.
Yeah, we have to probably hit this by next meeting, I would think, if you'd want to, or have it. I mean, not next meeting, but
Meeting.
By the time that Athletics and Health have another actual committee meeting, we need to sort through things.
Yeah, and I made copies to give to the administrators there, so I thought maybe you'd bring it up.
Fantastic. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So input, and then when we have something that we bring it up as a job description, we can at least vote on a job description as a board, I would think, and then go forward if we want to actually utilize that job description.
Yeah,
so.
And as things change in a job, you can always change a job description too, as long as it doesn't change the conditions of employment. There may be things you put in, maybe things you take out. So
if anybody on the committee has any questions, concerns, complaints, that's all I have for tonight.
And this would be something after we have legal counsel go through it, just to make sure that it crosses all the T's and dots all the I's for the job description. We had that done before. We had a PSBA attorney go through them before when we first had it, but it'd be good to have a new solicitor look through it, just make sure we have, especially the physical demands, sensory work environment, cognitive ability, make sure that we're all legal with that portion of it.
So what I'd like to do, and so everybody's on the same page, is so you guys are just seeing kind of like what we put together, spitballed ideas of what the last job posting was. Get your information in. I want to hear everything you guys have, and then our next actual committee will take the ideas, talk them out as a committee, work through it, go forth, and allow the board to see what got put together out of that committee, and then discussion out of that, and then we can vote on it. So it's a work in progress. If we're not going to figure it out by probably 2 weeks from now, but I would hope at least by April timeframe we have the T's crossed and I's dotted for the job description, and then going forth with budgeting. We'll have to work with the finance committee and you, Doug, or however that plays out.
Yeah,
I mean, almost in by then. right?
Yeah.
People,
That's
Yeah,
why. That's
yeah,
why. It's like
yeah,
not,
you got to build before that.
not talking about it tonight was not okay. So getting this going is what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So what I have from the administrative team is I've asked for them their projections to me by the end of February, and that goes into my proposed budget in March that I give the board and the committee. They look through that. Really, we'll hash all that out in April at the committee of the whole to make sure it all makes sense there. You know, that committee of the whole from. Those last notes are what goes into the May budget that's voted on once, and then it sits for public review. So it would, to make sure that we have everything, all the positions that we think we may want discussed in that April meeting, all of that put into that May budget. So, yeah, so, you know, into April is when, you know, we'd have that kind of hashed out to say, is this what you want it to look like? And then, you know, that would come up in the May budget then. If not, would make a few changes for that May board meeting.
yeah. So the athletic director term role currently ends June 30th, correct? So
Correct.
if we have a budgeted allotment of funds for that position in May, that gives us pretty much a special meeting needed to be able to post a posting for that job, along with doing interviews and then working through potential candidates to see where we end. We're going to be meeting that June 30th deadline with hiring somebody if we don't have that done by the May, correct? So that doesn't give a whole lot of transition and layover between the current AD.
not enough.
Exactly.
Not
So
enough.
this-
I mean,
so
we
the
have to do
sooner the
something.
better. So please, I
Yeah.
know you guys are really busy.
Is there a need for us to accelerate that? Knowing that, I mean, ultimately what we're working off is essentially a resignation. So whenever that happens, you got to react to that.
But
How-
I mean, if you guys are creating a position, even though you haven't funded it with a budget, I mean, every position is unfunded before you do the budget. But if you're voting to create a position for the next year, I would think you would still be able to put that in, knowing that the funding is coming in for the budget.
In
You
other
understand
words-
what I'm saying?
Yep.
In other
So,
words, we could start advertising before.
so we could really fast track this.
And
So
interviews.
You know, like if Sam said, I need another kindergarten teacher, we wouldn't wait until July to do that. We would say, okay, that's a position the board agrees to. And then that would be included in the budget, you know, in that April meeting, we would say, this is what it'll look like with that position in the budget when we review it. And then that would be the budget for review and vote in May.
So as long as this committee, we will meet between our February and March meeting. We will take input from the administration, and then when that's put together, send it to the remainder of the board, take their input on it. I don't see any reason the job description couldn't be voted on by March, which in turn gives us May the opportunity of having somebody hired. So that gives us at least 30 days to a month.
To advertise.
You could approve the
No, to actually have
position.
somebody there.
But there's also a contractual component to it
Yep.
Yes,
that I
that's what
believe
was
that
saying.
we should meet in executive session to discuss.
Okay. Yeah, I think that actually, and maybe for a discussion around this, I don't know if you agree, Anthony. I think the biggest decision with this in regards to job description are not necessarily the semantics of the primary duties and responsibilities. It's more about, we have an AD position now that's sort of bolted on to an existing role in whatever shape that takes. Then there's the athletic director position as a standalone. Then there's the combined athletic director / assistant principal that was developed. I think that's sort of the decision. Don't you? To some degree, it's like they're three totally different things. You know, to me, that's my view of it's like, are we hiring an athletic director? And then those roles funnel in under that. Is the role an athletic director / assistant principal based on that old created? I'm not saying we have to make a decision now, but that's the whole point of having you can start the discussion now if you want to just dive into like what your needs are, meaning these are like the three biggest things you could look at right now are not, can this person lift 50 pounds? It's more as far the duties and responsibilities, like Doug's saying, it's like, to me, there's three.
I mean, this is also part of the professional contract, and I think we need to meet to discuss the obligations to that and how we're going to approach that. And I don't.
Okay.
But all our extracurriculars are up to us.
Yeah.
To vote on. I mean, you know, if next year we don't want to, for instance, a baseball coach, we can vote no baseball. You know what I mean? So, I mean, getting it out of the contract should be easy. You know.
And we'll meet an exec over that. That's fine. Over the contractual obligations, and go forward with that. But as for now, input, please. Thank you. And that's all I have for athletic and health.
Where do we stand with the 21-year age thing for coaching? Have we done anything with that? I know we were talking about it's in the sports handbook or one of those.
Coaches
handbook. But it was never really anywhere else, and we haven't really moved forward at all.
So now's the time to do it. This is kind of why breaking off into smaller committees, we could have focus and things like that, but it wasn't on the agenda. And
well, we can still, I mean, a big committee, small committee, talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, why do we have to wait until there's a small committee?
I have
Let's
no
talk
problem
about it.
taking that off to vote on for next Tuesday. That's fine by me.
But I think we also should discuss why in the world it was in there. And I don't know that answer.
We can discuss that later.
I mean,
Or maybe somebody can.
we need
How about
somebody
we
to tell us
discuss
why
it
that's in
now?
there.
Yeah, right now is
Yeah,
right
I
now.
mean,
We're a committee.
That's
Well,
the,
it's your committee, and that's what we
you guys
want.
are actually, you guys are touching and hammering on exactly what we were saying from past committee of the whole, is that this is
Nothing
the
gets done when you
point.
bring it up. So then we won't talk about it and it won't get done on next Tuesday. So this
Would
is
you
why-
like administrative input?
Yes, please.
We would love it. You're a key stakeholder.
Only because the athletic director and I have talked about this already. And I don't know if Doug was part of that conversation, but we're okay with that. We're not sure where it came from either, but our recommendation would be that the players are not unsupervised or are not solely supervised by someone 21 or younger,
right?
Just because of, understanding the dynamics and being green to that area, but to have them on the coaching team, part of the coaching staff, not a problem. That was some of the suggestions we made or were thinking of making before it even came up.
So volunteer coaches, can they be left without supervision with players? I hear both sides.
Technically.
So volunteer coaches can be left with players without a.
Yeah, they have the same training, the same clearances as a coach, just that they're unpaid.
I was just thinking kind of a workaround, not in a bad way or anything, but if 21 and under could be volunteer coaches, and then that would negate not having supervision, but obviously they don't need it, so it's not part of it.
The concern was that they're recent graduates, or they could be recent graduates, and their friends may still be part of the team.
And high school,
Well, yeah.
I mean, they, if they graduated in June or 18 years old, they're going to be very familiar with the other senior class coming in.
So we would love to have their coaching, their knowledge from the sport help out the team, but just the concern for supervision of friends, basically, it could be.
So is there an age requirement for voluntary coaches right now?
I think it's all the same.
So Hal, do you have any concern with, or like there is a limitation if you have someone, like let's say we're to have a volunteer coach, but they're in a collegiate program coming back and coaching on their break. Can they coach students?
They can, but by the time they do all the clearances and do all the concussion protocol and do everything else, they've had that done before.
Well, I mean, like if they had it done before, let's say
They had it done before they can come in. Yeah, they just can't compete against the the athletes. I mean,
Which
you-
is
you-
any coach.
Good.
As that's,
any
Right.
coach that like a wrestler, college wrestler, or even not a college wrestler, can't come in and wrestle against the kids. Okay, they same way with can't play one-on-one basketball with the kids.
Yeah, so there's no special prohibition for that.
No,
Because somebody had brought that up before and I didn't understand what that
Yeah.
would have been.
I just think that, and I don't know when that got in there, and I don't know exactly why, but I would think that the biggest concern is somebody who is just out of high school, and those are the people they run around with.
so to avoid confusion next Tuesday, the committee is looking for a way to word this now, so it's already on the agenda to be presented.
To
in the way
make
of-
a motion to. yeah.
Exactly. So what we
Well,
have.
let's
is-
talk about it.
So we have a concern of 21 and under, which needs to be incorporated into the motion. And that 21 and under can coach. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Could we put them under the direct mentorship of the paid coaches?
Do we have a copy of the coach's handbook handy?
I can get one.
And then that way we can look
we
exactly
would
at the
have to go.
language
Yeah.
that's in that and just say that maybe all we need to do is delete a line. So,
Potentially.
And it's not policy, so that's
Yeah.
all it would take.
Because we just approve the general handbook. We
Yeah.
don't approve every line in it. Technically, we approve every line, but we do the general
Well, and
handbook.
that's the problem, I think. It just got thrown in there somewhere. Nobody noticed it. Nobody saw anything, and we just moved
Well,
on.
somebody didn't throw it in there. Somebody put it in there on purpose. Okay.
Well, if you would like to go that way, then yeah, we can go that way.
I mean, obviously they put it in there for a reason.
Absolutely. For sure.
I mean, it didn't,
and I had that for,
I think the other element while we're waiting for Lynn too is this poses a good future agenda item of just that coach's assessment and assistant coach assessment. You know, if we have coaches that are in here and they can't handle themselves in regards to leadership as an assistant coach because they're friends with the players, then that's something that we have to identify during the assessment process at the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think opening it up, cracking this thing open a little bit is a positive thing. I mean, look what Taylor's going through right now. We've got a head coach with
Right.
no one to help him.
Yep.
With
Well, and
season,
that's-
with season lurching in.
And that's the next thing. I know how there was always a big push to approve all of our coaches in August at one time. And we
No.
kind of won.
May. May.
I'm sorry. But my general thing is we're putting all these coaches up for hire in one shot to approve them. And we kind of broke it out when COVID happened. And it was nice because you could kind of see where everybody was, when they were, and all that. However, if we had the coaching assessments complete and we had a small committee where we actually got the data in to assess if I wanted to rehire a coach, where now we're just, here's the names and we don't really know what took place. And
That's why you do it in May, because then you have time to look at it. Because if you do it later as the year goes on, all of a sudden everything catches up with you.
in 2 years, I've never been a part of coaching assessment. I've never been a part of hearing why we're hiring these coaches again.
The athletic director does the coaching.
Yeah,
assessment.
And that's-
the athletic
you see,
director does
it's
the
rolling into
assessment,
that
the head
role.
coach.
We're
Wait a
giving
minute,
the
and the head
information.
coach does his assistants. Okay, and just like we're not involved in the assessment of teachers,
But we
Okay.
hire them.
but we're not involved in the assessment of them at all.
But if I'm going to hire a coach that's been assessed, I want to know how the assessment went.
But we don't do that for teachers either.
We
Ask
can.
to see it. Ask to see.
could.
Okay. Ask to
teachers are
see.
under
Ask to see teachers' assessments. And
So the coaches.
ask to see them.
Yeah, we can.
Can we? Oh, can we, Doug?
Of course.
Yeah.
When there's a recommendation made to hire a teacher, and
No.
actually,
I'm not saying hire. I'm saying their
No,
assessment.
he means like a
I wanna
yearly
see the
review.
I want to see the superintendent's assessment of last year's principal.
it's everything here is
Yeah.
public in some
That
form or
is not
fashion.
public. That is not public.
yeah.
That is not public.
We're way in the weeds here, but the
No, I'm not. We're not in the weeds where he wants to assess the coaches and the board doesn't do that.
No, he's not asking to assess the coach.
He
What I
wants to
heard
read
is
the
he
assessment.
wants, like what he's
He
saying
wants to
is
see what the assessment said that was done.
we're blind hiring. Hal.
Well, I think we should see the assessment of teachers in.
That's a completely separate discussion, but there's
I mean, it's the same idea.
But I mean, it's just like we just approved tenure for those 3 people. We can ask to see their review before we
Can
say
you?
yes.
Can
Yes,
you?
absolutely.
Oh, okay. Ask our lawyer.
I had a hard time struggling with this when I first got on the board and I requested information. And thank you, Doug. You were the one that always kind of gave me any financial questions I had, but it seemed like other things I'd ask for, I'd never get the information on, and it would go to the.
That's right.
Yeah,
well,
so
I mean, you can kind of see what we're sort of cracking open here.
Well, I can't tell you exactly what you can and what's public and what isn't public, but most items in a personnel folder are considered confidential. Now, who has access to that based on need? I can't answer that question. I'd have to
I guess what I'm
defer to an attorney. But Anthony, you have a good point. There are 2 philosophies in leadership. Well, there's more than 2 philosophies in leadership, but these 2 philosophies, there's positive leadership and negative leadership. Negative leadership is prohibit everything and only give what they need. Positive leadership is providing everything within a guideline and then taking care of issues as they come up. And I think for a long time, we've had the negative leadership.
That's correct.
Where we just say no to everything. And then hand out as if, they're tokens. I think some of the stuff with the coaches, if you have an 18-year-old coach and they're performing well, let them have at it. And then we'll deal with the issue if it arises, instead of saying, well, we're going to change the age to 21 because something might come up. So I think that's a good approach to take.
100%.
So here's something else that's interesting. I asked Lynn before she walked away. Thank you, Lynn, for getting this. I appreciate it. The only spot that this is mentioned of being 21 years of age is volunteer coaches. So what would stop us from hiring a 20-year-old as our head coach? You see what I mean? It's stuff like
That's
this.
even better. Yeah.
Well, no, it's really what we can do right now with our coaches.
Right. That's what I mean.
Anything.
So it's been hearsay all this
And
time.
Well, it is in volunteer coaches. If you're a volunteer,
Okay, but
coach,
see, so that was written to target an individual, and there's the
Exactly.
problems that
agree.
you run in. And so there's the issue that you had. So
and the board could
that's-
have just said, no,
that's-
we're not hiring.
that's negative leadership.
and if
You rewrite your procedures to target an individual instead of just targeting the
And if-
individual.
if you guys haven't noticed, we're the change management and cultural adjustment we're attempting to make here, which it's going to be a long road, is not to exclude the administration or the stakeholders. It's to include them, because these things that are popping up, why did they exist? Because someone said you're not allowed to do that. And I think past leadership posed themselves and positioned themselves in that realm, as Doug said, from a negative leadership arena. And we rubber stamped everything. Like, let's be honest, go back through the old minutes and look at these meetings. On Tuesday, I'm a broken record on this, but until we start cracking open some of the discussions and questions, we're never going to change anything. Just rubber stamp everything every month on the necessities. The administration is only going to bring necessity to the board because Doug needs to have things approved so he can move forward. Got to pay a bill, need to advance the program. We shouldn't necessarily argue about whether we're going to look at teachers' performance evaluations. That's not what Anthony was trying to say. Other districts sit through committee meetings with their leadership, and they trust them and say, how'd the head coach do last year for the baseball team?
And I would try.
I will tell you, in 4 years, I'm with Anthony. I have never seen one of those or even been given the access to have the conversation of whether or not we were happy with the basketball coach, the baseball coach. I also have never been part of, we're off on a tangent here, but let's go. The hiring of teachers. I can tell you straight out that I sat on other boards with other school districts, and board members do sit through the hiring process and the interviews. I'm not saying we should all sit on the interviews for every teacher.
Wilson Ferguson and I have sat on everyone at least since he's.
Well, I'm just
teachers were on the interview committee when they hired me in 1978. Okay, our school district has done that every year, and before that, And the only time they didn't is we had one
Right.
teacher hired, and it became a big issue at the board meeting. Okay, because they didn't have a teacher on that interview
I know,
committee.
but
One
how?
time.
But
One
how?
time.
All these examples, you keep going back, and 10 years ago, there was a situation like we had to go past that. We have to.
No,
move
no,
past it.
you don't
Can I-
understand. We have had a teacher or a board member on interviews for every teacher we've hired,
Sure.
except for one time, just a few years ago. Okay, and I'm not going to name the teacher, but I don't remember what teacher it was. It was, and and that was just recently. Okay, but I'm saying board members have always been on the committees and invited to do it.
And we'll make sure we do going forward as well.
We're going to
Can
go
I ask
forward.
a,
Let's
can I
be,
ask
let's
a,
be
a
real.
different question?
But
Mhm.
for a second, let's be real. The majority of the board cannot make, because we're invited to lots of them, but
Mhm.
the majority of this board and the board before that and the board before that, you know what I'm going to say, Lynn? They can't make an interview at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday because they're at work.
Well, with the new teacher.
And when we
interviews-
would get, just one more thing, when we would get the notification,
Oh, this is,
was we're going to have an interview at 2:30 on Wednesday. We would get the phone call at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday night when you had no chance of making your schedule changed by the next day, or the morning of at 8 o'clock, you would get a notification
the morning of.
that said, hey, we're having an interview today at 2:30. However, check the box. The board was notified of the interview process. Check the box. So that's where this is going to take a long time to unravel a lot of this stuff. So lots of meetings, lots of long meetings, but that's the kind of thing we need to change.
T-shirt, this was for Sellenberg. I think.
You guys are suffering from
Did we?
PTSD.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, but if we're proactive with this, like if we need to hire teachers, we're gonna do it when teachers are still employed or in college. So those meetings are gonna have to be. We're not gonna wait till September to look to hire a teacher this year. So if we're doing that, that'll have to be in the evenings. I would guess, just
And
so
almost all
everyone
of
is
them are.
available.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, and sometimes when we do have
I was
meetings during the
unable to
day,
attend any of them.
well, I was going to say that sometimes there's a reason that we have them during the day, depending on what the position is. Sometimes we like to try to get the teachers in to interact with our students. So obviously we have to do that when the students are here. That's very valuable for us when we're interviewing, to give teachers the opportunity to teach lessons to students that are here at the school. Sometimes that's only the second round interview though. So it might be something that depending on, what we're looking for a particular position, but there is reason that we sometimes do that.
Can I ask? I think this has been really helpful, and I hope we do, all of this in the future. I was just going to return to, did we figure out how to word the motion about the
That's where I was going. So here we're dealing with a couple issues now. Now we have no age restriction on our head coach. In the coach's handbook, there is no age restriction. As for volunteer coaches, it's 21 years of age and 3 years removed from graduation. So going forward, I know there's concerns of 21 or under 21 years of age having supervision. So are we adding to coaching position, and are we removing from volunteer position some of this verbiage? Is it going to be one motion or two motions? Because there's a couple things now that we have unearthed, which is good. And there's not an easy answer, but we're a group.
But that isn't even one and the same though, is it?
So,
Because it says, what is it, under 21 or 3 years removed?
so the only thing that is in here about an age restriction, I'll read it. Volunteer coaches must be 21 years of age and be 3 years removed from
Oh, and be.
graduation
Okay,
and have
Andy.
completed all requirements found in the volunteer coach's contract.
What about 18 period?
So volunteer coaches must be 18 years of age. And then that takes that entire.
And
sentence.
graduated? Or are we going to have some of the high school kids? We got 18 and
I was
19
going
year
to
olds.
say, yeah, we need to put in
Yeah,
graduated.
okay.
School kids. See, I mean,
Nope, I'm thinking about
Do
it.
you want a high school graduate? Because I
No,
was
no.
17 when I graduated.
I was going
not
to say
a-
the same thing.
And not attending the district. How about that? Because we have actually had employees that haven't graduated, but may still be good. You know what I mean? They left school. So they're not a graduate, but that doesn't mean they couldn't be a good baseball coach.
Yeah, not
So,
I
currently
think
a
if they can't
student in the
graduate from
district.
high school, they can't.
Yeah, but not attending.
Not attending.
I think it should be graduate. A graduate and at least 18. The only change from what I said and what Anthony said was that there's a graduate. That way, if you're 19 years old and still in high school, you can't be a volunteer coach yet, but you can participate. You know, you as a 19-year-old high school student, you can be a manager, or you can be, you can volunteer in that sport all you want.
The problem we're trying to solve is we don't want a current student to be a volunteer coach.
So it doesn't make it a current student can technically be a volunteer coach if he's a manager. I mean, you see what I
No,
mean?
we're not even, no.
Yeah, but
no.
then
But I'm just saying they can do that. A kid that's in high school can help the head coach with whatever. He
Yeah, I
can
did that in high
he can
school.
practice with them. He can wrestle with them. He can play basketball against them, and he can help the head coach in coaching him. I mean, as a student.
So we call those
Okay,
managers,
so
right?
what we're talking about somebody who is
I
out
don't
of high
remember.
school. Okay, we're talking about somebody who's out of high school, and whether we say out of high school and 18 or just say out of high school.
Yeah, I'm just asking what the problem is we're trying to solve, because then we can get the language right. Like that's all I'm trying to ask.
I would say a high school graduate. They may be a little more responsible than somebody who didn't graduate.
You could add in their GED too, because a lot of people are
Okay.
homeschooled right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but homeschools are still graduates. They're not GED.
So there might
So
be.
because somebody
a
got their
few.
GED, you're not
Yeah.
going to let them coach baseball?
No, we didn't say that, but
That's what the question is right now.
So 18 years of age and not enrolled in the district. Does that kind of cover our bases? To be a coach. And then what comes to us to hire them anyway, and how,
We
or anybody else that doesn't want to hire them because they're not a graduate of this district, you don't have to. You can vote no.
well, and we have time to before we vote on it next week or whenever to think about. Are there some what ifs we didn't think about?
Sure.
and that's
Right.
what I like about this meeting of the whole. We all get to discuss it, or we're going to do this next week at the board meeting. We're going to go around again and say, gee, we just thought of, but I didn't even get a chance to think of it because you didn't tell me till next week.
I know
Exactly
we
what
keep,
we're doing.
somehow every single district in the entire IU except Sullivan County functions and has been functioning exactly like we're trying to describe, though. Hal, I'm just not sure. I mean, maybe it's me, but like, if right now you're like argumentative on every level on every topic.
My
I-
privilege.
It is. It for sure is your privilege. I think what we're actually trying to solve, Mary Elise, on this is that there's not a line of people waiting like out the doorway to coach.
Right.
So this
Right.
discussion started because we wanted to open up the field a little bit and maybe we get a college kid to come and help. And there was actually an example of a college student that wanted to help that got
Two.
turned down to college, but that has been long gone. It can't happen now because they've already committed their time to another district. That's what brought it up. So I think we're completely covering this in the 18 years of age graduate. If you want to put GED, great. I would believe that would cover us. And then if we get an applicant that's teetering on the edge of something, then that's what the hiring process does and the voting process. But currently,
Okay.
because of this somewhat unwritten rule, we lost two potential assistant/volunteer coaches.
So that'll be on the agenda on Tuesday.
Thank you.
And it won't be a, hey, let's make a spur of the moment action and not have the correct verbiage and go round and round whether we need to add it to the agenda or not add it to the agenda. It'll be on the agenda that 18 years of age and not enrolled in the district to be voted on on Tuesday.
Mr. Derlin,
Yes.
couple questions. Is this just for volunteer coaches or any coach?
Right now, the only thing that has verbiage for 21 years of age is volunteer coaches. So do you have any recommendations for anything? I want, like, if you,
I just wanted clarification. And then do we need to add in anything with the supervision because of the 18-year-old being close to the age of the players?
And why should we have not enrolled in a district? So if they're enrolled in Wyalusing, it'd be okay?
well, that was the concern, that you didn't want somebody who was in.
Well, we put a
C5.
graduate. It doesn't have to be a graduate of this district, right?
Yeah,
No,
if you just said a graduate, right, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have to be a graduate of this district.
Affirmative.
So now I'm out in left field thinking I'm pitching right now. So what are we doing? Like, this is okay. So we have not settled out on the volunteer coach, and we want to add some supervision if we hire a coach, which isn't even in the handbook now. So where is this big circle going?
So, I still have this, we come back to graduate, right?
Mhm.
Since that is a stipulation, 18 years old and a graduate, now you're requiring that every coach and every volunteer coach be a graduate. I got to tell you, this district has had employees apply in the past, and it used to be if someone became pregnant, they had to leave school. So we've had someone apply to this district before that didn't get a job because they were required to leave school. We have productive members of our society who left in 10th, 11th grade to work in their family business, but that doesn't make them less able to coach baseball. Now, I know it's an institution of learning. However, these aren't educational positions. This is extracurricular. This is athletics. And I don't think restricting someone to having graduated high school in this particular case, I would put an age restriction, but I don't know that we want to put an educational restriction on a job who's, if you want to talk about it from an HR standpoint, a BFOQ, a bona fide educational qualification for that position. It doesn't exist. Can they read and write? Can they communicate? Can they coach? That has nothing to do.
Process.
That has nothing to do with being a high school graduate.
I agree. I think it's simple, Anthony. I think the motion needs to remove the current language that mentions age in regards to assistant, and add the language that assistant and head coaches and volunteer coaches need to be.
To say list all three and put the age 18. That's my suggestion.
Would it be helpful to write 18 and not enrolled in high school? It doesn't say graduated GED, it doesn't indicate that either way, but it's just saying that they're not enrolled in high school. Because then that would cut out the confusion of having a 19-year-old in a different district or, anything like that. But it doesn't indicate that they had to graduate or that they had any type of educational level. It's just saying that they're not enrolled. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, doctor. Perfect. I like it. But then the next, so that part has been taken care of. Part
I think
two.
Heather wants to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heather.
Sorry, Heather.
That's okay. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Doug was saying. In our curriculum committee meeting, we discussed that the goals of the school should reflect the goals of the community or what is in the community. And not everybody in our community has finished school because, like Doug said, they had to quit school to go work on their family farm or, could have been a number of things. So I just wanted to say that I agreed with Doug's assessment.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still the question about supervision. I guess I'm kind of wondering, does that need to be in there right now? Does that? I don't know. What do y'all think?
It's a good problem to have, because now we're in a situation where we have a head coach who's 18, an assistant coach who's 19, and volunteers are 20. So how do we handle that? Not that that's ever going to be our case, but if we're going to put it into actual words, how do we formulate that to avoid having an issue?
But see, here it goes back to the leadership principle. If you hired the person because they were qualified
Boom.
and you believe that they could handle the task, I
What
don't
does
believe
age
you're
have to
going
do
to
with it?
have, yeah, I don't believe you're going to have that maturity issue.
Right.
If you have a
We're already-
volunteer coach that's older than their regular coach and they're just a knucklehead, you don't need them as a volunteer coach anymore, you know?
I agree, and we do the assessments for a reason, and I think that's what it comes down to, is holding accountability with the assessments. So if we have somebody who's 18 and is a jackwagon, we should know about it and not hire them again. So it's unfortunate we'll go through a season with a coach who's a butthead, but it won't happen again next year if we have good
Well,
accountability.
we can address that throughout the season too. We don't have to
Exactly.
wait.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So
And listen, we're gonna know most of the coaches, so that's just the way this community is. So we know if somebody has a good reputation coming into the position, whether or not we think that they can handle that position during interview.
I mean, that would be like saying Vaughn is the head coach of basketball, but Frank Comfort was the volunteer. Look at the age difference. It's the exact same thing, Does it matter? No. If he's a good coach, who cares?
anything else with athletics and health for this evening?
Are you solid on that? Got it.
18 years of age and not enrolled in high school, I believe. Whatever Scotty said, Doug, you got it.
Anthony's going to get with you after the meeting.
Well, as long as it's on the agenda for Tuesday, we'll go through that rigmarole.
Hey,
Okay. Well, glad I brought that up. Sorry, guys.
10-year problem just solved.
Anything else? If not, I'm closing the committee meeting for athletics and health.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Number one, information list of the district's organization's use of facilities request. Sullivan County High School Guidance Office, ASBAB testing. Sullivan County High School Guidance Office, PFEW presentation. National Honor Society Induction Ceremony. Wellness Committee, NTIC health screenings. Sullivan County Elementary School, Officer Reeves, cyber safety presentation. Sullivan County Elementary School, library, elementary book bingo. Sullivan County Elementary School, Ready Freddy program. Sullivan County Elementary School music auditorium for K2 spring concert. Sullivan County Elementary School music auditorium for 3rd, 4th spring concert, and Sullivan County Elementary School auditorium for 5th, 6th spring concert. We all good?
Lynn, did you want to speak to the induction ceremony?
Yes, we are holding our National Honor Society induction for our juniors this Thursday at 7 p.m. If anybody would like to attend, they have opened the invitation to the board as well as the administrators.
Samantha, could you speak to the Ready Freddy program for the new board members?
Absolutely. So let me pull my calendar just to get the exact dates. We will be having kindergarten registration in the end of February. So if you have a kindergarten age student or know of a family that does, please encourage them to contact the elementary school office. They can make an appointment with Mrs. Rock, and those dates would be from February 23rd through the 25th. So once we have a kindergarten student registered there during that time, they will be provided with information about our Ready Freddy program, which is held, or our kindergarten teachers and Mrs. Reese put this on for our students, incoming kindergarten students and their families. It is 4 evenings in March, March 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st. All this information is going out, so you don't need to jot it down quickly. And basically the intention of the program is to prepare our students for what to expect at school, as well as provide families with information about preparing your child to enter kindergarten. So we are really excited to continue this program. I've heard awesome things about it, and our staff is really excited as well.
Good deal.
We good? Okay, item 2.
I have one. This will be really quick.
Can't wait for other.
No. So the facilities requests, who does all the scheduling for that? Like who puts it all on the schedule and who manages that schedule? Just so I just curious. Okay. So I thought I just wanted to make sure that got captured for me. Thank you.
I could have told you that. Okay. Item 2. Use of facilities requests from Caden Heisman from the Laporte Enhancement Committee for the use of the parking lot and cross-country course and bathroom facilities on July 30th, 2022 from 8 a.m. till 12 p.m. for the Leonard Simpson Memorial 5K Trail and Fun Run.
So it just so happens that I may be on the booster club as well. And we hold our 5K the first week in August, first Saturday in August, which would be the week right after this. I don't know if they just picked a date, if the date has meaning. I don't know any of that, but that would hurt our Booster Club 5K tremendously. So I don't know if, like, maybe I could reach out and see if there's a reason that date was picked, or I don't want them to not have it by any means. Oh my goodness, no. I love the idea, but that would be 2 5Ks back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, if they had it the month before or even a month and a half before or and after.
And we've always had ours down at Lake Macoma, and their land association has been fighting with their landowners for the last, I think, 3 years. We've been trying to avoid some land and move to other land for the course. So we have already had discussions with Glenn to help us do it here if need be, because they're really just they just don't want it there anymore. So I don't know what everybody's input is on that.
Do you want to table this till someone could talk?
I don't know. I wanted everybody's input, I guess. I have no problem calling and seeing if there was a reason for that date and explaining the problem.
We've got plenty of time for that. I
Okay.
mean, this is
It's July
5 months away.
30th.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
thought until I saw this, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I know they probably just want some time to be able to plan
Right.
for it. So
So does anybody have a problem with me reaching out to Caden?
I think you should. You know, you're right. We don't want 2 5K races in 2 weekends. And probably both up here now.
Yes.
Because, I mean,
Yeah, because it'll hurt both of them.
Right. Okay. I will reach out to
or maybe
Caden.
kill one of them.
Do they still do the one, there's another one like July 4th weekend? Out
That's
by
the Jewish one?
D&Ds? No, by D&Ds.
Oh,
was
the
the-
color run. I don't know. I don't know if they're doing it. But ours has been like the first Saturday in August for
Forever.
yeah.
I don't
What's
think,
that?
is the color run a 5K? I don't remember. I think the color run was more,
McDaniel's, no. It's the one before that.
I don't want to say a fun run,
Glass
but
front to their
it seemed
house.
less like competitive
Yeah,
and more
lines up
fun,
now.
just because there was
Right.
a bunch of kids
There's
running in
some
it,
others
and,
too.
you know,
There's some
people
that I
walking
can
and
explain to you
pushing
later.
strollers and
I'll
hiking and
explain a
stuff.
couple
So
of them.
I don't know if that's you know, not saying these are more serious, but
Right.
That's the Fitzgerald family, so I'll try and find out a date about that too.
Don't they use that money for the color run towards the scholarship? as
Scholarship,
well? So I
mhm,
think it
yeah.
is a pretty fun, family-oriented thing, but we don't
Yeah.
want to impact their
Absolutely.
money as well.
And they just have a limited amount of time to do it up to school because, we're in school half of June and then middle of August, our cross-country teams and everybody's hit back again. Part of the problem, there aren't many days there, many weekends.
Could they count that as a practice?
On that date, as long as it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
So, are we to other yet?
Yep.
Okay, we're to other.
The MHE engineering and preliminary design for the addition. I know there was going to be like a week time frame of single point of contact through Doug to Mike, so that there wasn't a whole bunch of people reaching out. I think that if we're going to get anything done on that, we have to move the needle and figure out what our plan is and whether it's enlarging it, making it bigger, smaller, higher, wider.
Well, I think he was going to do that. He was going to come up with some recommendations based on the engineering that they had done for the elevation there, just to see how far they could come out. So,
Do we need to make any kind of decision on moving him ahead or moving him forward, or is he
no,
already?
he's working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have any idea when he would get back?
Well, I mean, like I said, he'll have to look at he'll have to look at the other. Yeah, I mean, he's usually pretty responsive because he's been on our, he's been working for us for a while now. So I mean, he's usually pretty responsive. Mike is, but he has to look at there's a couple other engineers he's probably working with.
So I know this could be a 2-hour meeting in itself, but I'm just going to throw it out there real quick. And that is, there was some conversations that were had about ceiling heights and different things during the last meeting. And I'm just going to throw it out there that I definitely don't want to see us. I want to see us move ahead for sure. I'm pretty excited, but I don't want to see us go through the analogy of building a 2-car garage and then 4 months after you get the 2-car garage, you go, oh, I wish we would have put the 3-car in because now we can't fit everything in there. I'm just throwing it out there because if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, if they haven't hit Doug's desk yet, to communicate back with Mike, we should probably do that sooner than later.
So was anything like put out for what you guys discussed that day or no?
You mean put out for redesign or?
We
Yeah,
can
like the
talk
people
about
who had to leave.
Yeah, I mean, essentially.
Like you're talking about ceiling height. I had no
Yeah,
clue.
well, what we.
I can just mark.
And we don't
this.
need to do it now. We can do it after. It's not a big deal, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was,
Oh, now's the time to do it.
okay.
Now's the time while he's here.
Committee meeting.
All right, let's do it.
I'm ready to see full gymnasium being built. I mean, if you're going to come this way, I'll give you all my ideas.
There's not enough room right there. So what was discussed? In this particular plan, you all received an email on it. So what was discussed is to come out as far as they could based on elevation to make this room where this wrestling mat is bigger. So you already have 21 feet here, and if we could put another 15 feet on this side, then you could end up with another room that you could have a tournament in, because you'd have enough room to sit, and you'd also gain additional room in there. So, your softball. We talked about pitching, but it's difficult when the room is just the length of softball pitching, but not the length of baseball pitching. So there just isn't that kind of room there. But again, I think if we do pitching, that's probably something like a different facility.
Like a field house.
Somebody wanted
So-
a pool. I
so-
remember someone saying a pool.
So everyone was looking at this, and then we talked about ceiling height and expanding this room. So what Mike Lemereau of MHE is going to do is come back with a drawing to expand where that mat is, that room size, so it could be used for more than just that mat. So we'd also have room then to store all the other competition mats, so they'd be out of the hallways and the back of the auditorium, and it really takes care of a lot of things. We pull all of that activity into that one area, and then it really, there's some synergy there. You get more out of it than just having that wrestling room. You end up with the storage, the additional activities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Gabe, I know you want to throw baseballs somewhere, but even in the high school gym, throwing baseballs is pretty dangerous. Okay. And that's a room twice as big as what we're building. So, divide our gym in half and start throwing baseballs at each other. You're almost in a dangerous situation. The ceiling's high enough, but, it's not very conducive to, and the wrestling room is just not going to be that big. I mean, I'd love it to be. I wouldn't, it wouldn't hurt anything. But, that mat in there. And Joe, do you remember, do you know what size this new mat is? The new, foldable.
Okay.
Okay. In the rest one now. Okay. And the old one was 44 by 44. So that's about the size. Well, that mat wouldn't even fit in this room without the expansion. So you're talking about a very small room. The room's smaller than a wrestle mat. Okay.
But it won't be now.
But it won't be now, but not a whole lot bigger than so you're not talking about a room that probably can be used for indoor baseball, maybe indoor softball if you have 4 kids in there. But I wouldn't mind. I'd love to, let's clear out the barn in the back of the school and whatever's in there now. And we used to park school bus in there.
I mean, we have to get creative if we're going to start to enhance anything with some of this. I really hate to see us. The only thing that's on my mind that I have to bring out is that I don't want to go through with a capital investment that restricts what we really want. Like, okay, let's do a 1 year or 18-month capital investment, hammer this thing out, and restrict a 3-year program of what we really want. I don't, I know that's restrictive, but like what you say is things I think we should talk about as far as like space usage. That's a pretty big building. Like I mean, we should literally start to consider those type of crazy ideas to just identify if in fact there's any validity to any of that. Because I'm just brainstorming here because we're having this thought, but like, swear to God, drove out of the parking lot last week and had my truck facing that building and had the thought of like, that is a pretty good sized building. I don't know what the footprint is, but it's like, I'm telling you,
that one's divided into half though. The front part is heated and the back part.
But all I'm saying is like, as you start to think through this, the last thing we want to do is go, I'm throwing out rough numbers, go $1.5, $2 million on something that we get and say, shouldn't have done that.
Well, for the footprint of this particular project, though, to attach it to the gym, that's about as big as you could make this project.
Right.
If we wanted something else, it would have to be at a different place. But this takes care of accessibility for the bathroom, or excuse me, accessibility to the gym. It corrects the access to the building because everything is accessible and ground level.
Right.
The parking issue, the concession issue, the boosters, the wrestling actually having a second space, so we're not trying to find that, and having that good weight room that's designed for our athletic. And I just have to say, we've heard, for 20 years, since 2001, when we're talking about the Rec Association and another facility, I was thinking about this and they're saying, well, we would be taking part of that thunder from another facility. But that's like saying you have Arnold's Gym and Planet Fitness. This gym, this weight room is going to be kitted for athletes, not your Sunday exerciser. You know what I mean? It's two separate things. The weights and the equipment that they'll have is for athletes and not just fitness. So it's almost two different ideas when you come to that. And to try to make this weight room fit both, it should, we should be focusing on our athletes.
I think
and members of the public could still use it, but within the equipment that's designed for athletic competition and not general fitness. So, that's kind of the difference between the two.
Yeah, to me, I love the entryway side of it. I think the weight room's a necessity, regardless of what we do. But I'm thinking out loud, like we're taking this room as big as we can possibly take it, which is awesome. But we definitely don't want to end up with another mildly unusable room like has been built before. So I'm just throwing it out there because as we progress with this, we don't want to look back and say, well, we've got another 40 by 6. We got a 45 by 60 that's really not that usable anymore. Just throwing it out there because I like the idea of that building too. Because I think that there's the other thing that comes to mind that's of course you'd need another space, but it doesn't, you don't have a big heating and cooling system in there. So, get that. We should consider the formation of a foundation at some point in time so that we could begin like that fundraising aspect, the collection aspect. I don't think we really have anything to officially, because I know Wyalusing, Montgomery has Red Raider Foundation. What's Wyalusing's? And Anthony was crunching some basic numbers, but some of the things that Wyalusing recently did, I guess recently could be considered in the last 10 years. The school funded less than 50% of some of those projects. I could be off on percentage. I'm just giving rough, but and the same thing with Montgomery, the Red Raider Foundation. There was some huge donors that got involved with. I don't know the ins and outs of all of it. I can't recall, but I do know that there was very involved community members as part of that foundation, and that money collection or fundraising was a helpful aspect of these projects. So we should consider formation of something like that. But if we are going to go forward with this footprint, I say we rock and roll and move on it so we can actually have it as a usable facility in some reasonable time frame, because this thing actually has been kicking around for a while. And if we're going to wait for the construction costs to come down, we could be waiting for a long time.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we should. I would love to have it bigger. For lots of reasons. And I'd love to have another gym with bleachers in it where, like most schools have.
Like a field house?
The field house.
Stadium?
Montgomery has a nice field house, but and they built theirs away from the school out by the football field.
It's
And
also community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Place,
and
for
right,
sure.
and there's a town there, and there's more people there than what we have here. Lots of towns have YMCA's. It kind of solves the problem of our other facility, but we're not going to have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to move on this. I would like to see us move on it and make it as great as we can make it. And if you have a suggestion of something that can be done, that'd be great. Because I know it's a real hassle for baseball practice, because you see the snow out there. First baseball practice is March 5th. maybe it's March 8th this year.
We're still gonna have half-inch ice over everything.
Well, we almost do every year. March 7th this year will be the first baseball practice. We're very lucky if we get outside before the first game. A lot of times, the first time we get outside is our first game because it's in Bloomsburg. You know what I mean? And we barely have a place to throw baseballs. Like I said, the gym is minimal, you know, to be throwing baseballs. And, you know, and we're not going to have the footprint to build something else where that kind of stuff can be done. And if we build something for the baseball team, we should have something for the softball team. You know, I mean,
sometimes you got to take what you can get.
yeah, I know, but I mean, both of them could use that. But I'm just saying.
I'd like to have everything, but sometimes
I think the creative use of some of these areas we already have needs to be deployed, really. I mean, you know, we were at a couple tournaments, wrestling tournaments, just recently over the past couple of weeks, and these schools are making it happen. They're making it happen in singular gyms. They're making it happen with outside rooms. So just to give you, I know that we're like stuck on the baseball, softball thing, but I'm just saying right now, I know for a fact, because I know some of the guys that are part of the program, Montgomery's high school baseball team's practicing 3 days a week right now, as we speak.
Do we have a good, like, you know, we're popping up with different teams and things like that. Do we have a good needs assessment compiled somewhere of like these different teams and what their wishes are? I mean, thinking about partnering with administration and listening, and because it seems like we've got some good ideas out here. I'd be curious to Gabe, your point about like not building the two-car garage when, you know, like what is the landscape? What is the picture? Because I don't think I understand that.
Almost like we needed a person to coordinate all that.
Almost. I mean, I'm serious. Like that could be something that could be done.
100%. My view is on needs assessment. I'm only using Chris just because we were chatting about it. It's like, you cannot get anything if you don't ask for it. Like I'm not saying do this tomorrow, but Chris literally needs to walk around this entire facility and just have a list that's a mile long saying, I'm making this up, but we need a new roof and a new lawnmower and a garage and a truck and just get it on paper so we can look at it and say, okay, like 50% of this is nice to have. 50% of it is need to have. 50%, you know, whatever that the assessment is. It's the same way with I know that this is crazy talk, but like with our spaces, okay, if we really wanted to have a tournament, because I've seen it happen in other areas. Like there's small, dinky little gyms, you know. We were at Bucktail last night. Now I realize that you guys have all seen Bucktail, but there's crazy things that people do. Their scoreboards up on the stage. Okay. Like, you know, when we look at the space considerations that we have, I can't remember what school it is because I'm trying to get a visual of, but there's we were at a tournament a couple years ago with the wrestling tournament, and the one room that they had matches going on. There literally was like 2 people at the door, and they had tournament matches going on. So hey, match, you know, 48, 67, and 103 are down in the multi-purpose room. There was only like 20 people allowed in that room other than the wrestlers.
Warrior Run used like a closet.
But they made it work. So it's like, hey, you know, these matches are in there. There's no, if we did it, it's like this multi-purpose room that's going to be attached to this new, we can make it happen. There just needs to be a little planning. The cafeteria is a pretty big space, you know, the gym up there, although yes, it's the elementary school gym. Put some mats on the floor. You know, there's a lot of creative things we can do. I think we need to start opening up that thought process. You also need volunteers to make these things run. But I don't remember the last time we hosted anything of that nature. And I probably shouldn't throw out numbers, but I'm going to anyway, because the East Lycoming wrestling tournament that they host, they have to shut it down as far as the amount of participants. I don't know what it is, but it's like after 300, they can't accept anymore. And their booster club's making tens of thousands of dollars in a single day running those tournaments with you know? So, I think that's where we want to head, you know? But every time we talk about sports, there's the academic side saying, well, what do we need there? Got to get it on paper. And Chris is going, I could care less about your batting cage. I need a whatever, right?
Gabe, I get what you're saying, but it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. We have been in an environment that has habitually been told no, so people just stop asking. They don't know that they need to start asking again, and I think that's what Mary Elise is getting at. We need somebody to make sure that these coaches and teachers and maintenance people know that they are supposed to start asking for stuff, or they should come to us.
100%. Because an example is, and it's a small example, but it's a big ticket item in regards to culture. We were talking about the bows for the cheerleaders, and it's like, so I said something to Doug, and it literally was just, it was sort of that ingrained, like, we're not allowed to spend the money. And I said something to Doug, and he's like, says who? Like, tell me what you need, as long as it's less than like $5,000, and, you know, like, all these things are available. So I think that's a very valid point, is that we just have to get it on paper. If our wish list doesn't happen like very soon, we're not going to be able to financially plan for it even next year. So then you have another, then you're 2 years out before you can even actually plan for it. So that's, I kind of think, what we're trying to drive at. Where does that foundation belong in regards to, I mean, where would that sit, Doug, as far as if you assess that to, or address that to a committee, would it be finance?
I guess you could have members of the finance committee set on the foundation, but I mean, the purpose of the foundation is actually to set it aside from board action. So,
well, I just mean right now to move it, like, just to move the thought process.
You have to have somebody to run it to, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, you'd have to create a foundation. It would have to be the interested individuals. You know, you'd have to look at, your tax treatment. There'd have to apply to be a 501c3. You'd have to have a mission in an organization.
and kind of wasn't that what the original rec association was? I mean, kind of a start
See,
on
the
that.
problem is though with the rec is that they are not, there's no legal entity.
Well, I think the rec is more of a community-based foundation versus we don't have a school, a foundation that's based just for school.
But see, but the rec isn't a, they're not a 501(c)(3). That's why in order to marry the two, I guess, movements towards, the Sullivan County Rec versus the Loyalsock Foundation, that's where the collection needed to come into play, because technically the Sullivan County Recreation it's not incorporated under a 501(c), so it actually can't collect funds or can't harbor funds.
I mean, they were collecting funds.
They have, yeah, but as far as like if they were to apply for federal funding or grants or things of that nature, that was the restriction. It was very limited.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or insurance.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, again, I mean, we should just benchmark off some other districts because they do have foundations and they collect a significant amount of money and raise a significant amount of money.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mary Elise?
I'm ready. Curriculum Committee. We have an informational item, the Northern Tier Career Center Course Catalog 2022-2023 Programs of Study. I didn't have any questions here. I think this looks great. It's the first time I've seen it all laid out like this. Did y'all have questions? No? Anyone else? Second informational item, Northern Tier Career Center January 2022 Administrative Board Report. This just kind of goes over what's going on, enrollment, competition. All good. Okay. And then finally, item number 3, an informational item, Northern Tier Career Center 2022-2023 proposed calendar, which is on the back. I didn't see any issues there. Good to me. Okay. I mean, I don't have anything under other. I'll just say curriculum committee. We had a working session January 31st with administration here at school. The goal was to kind of just get an idea of what some of the priorities are for our administration in terms of our academics, look at some data and understand the landscape of the school. I think it was the start of some productive discussion about, what we might be looking forward to in the future. And like we're kind of getting at here, the idea of we want to make sure we have in place the things we need to have a really excellent academic program. And I think our principals and our administration's doing a tremendous job of looking closely at what those things may be. Those working sessions are absolutely open to, any interested parties, but we're just kind of going through things and understanding what's going on. I don't know if anyone has any questions about anything we discussed or other things that have come up about related to curriculum.
Something short and sweet. So I did the survey that's out for our comprehensive plan. I got that done. And I think there might be some things on there we might be able to piggyback off of for the curriculum committee.
Great.
Just an idea.
Yeah. Doug, when does that survey close?
This coming Sunday.
Yep.
And to date, we've already received 62.
20 since you made your announcement.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. So that's 82.
See, I tell you the phone calls. That's why I'm all about the phone calls.
Or is it more?
Yeah, and I put the links in the email and on the text. So if you got the text, people can
Great.
follow that.
Great. Yeah, the goal there is really to learn more from the community about, what the community's hopes for the schools are, so we can have that stakeholder voice in these discussions too, working on the comprehensive plan, which I'm very grateful to all of y'all working hard on that.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add, and I think it's kind of sort of littered in through a lot of what you guys are already working on from the planning, and then I know we had chatted about it, was just somehow establishing a baseline that's usable from a academic standing perspective. I think it's helpful to you guys too, because you're new, so it's not necessarily a direct reflection on, and it's not searching for something. It's just trying to get a baseline to say, okay, we are where we are. Here it is, and then so we can view it, because again, digging up old graves, but I felt like there was never really an interactive conversation about just the academic standings of the school. So we're talking all big about, batting cages and wrestling rooms and, ceiling heights for basketball. But I think at the end of the day, it's super important for us to also talk about what are the academic standings. What do we need? What do you need? What's the administration need? What do the teachers need? How is the aspect of cyber going, Griffin Academy, all those things? Like, I think that at some point we have to open up those conversations, and maybe it doesn't have to be tonight, but I really think we should start to open up those from not necessarily tell us how it's going, but a needs assessment. What do you guys need? Not happening. It is happening. We're dying on the vine here. I don't know.
Yeah, these guys are really they're on the stick with this. When it comes to when we're looking for baseline, I think this spring when we do the PSSA and the Keystone testing will be a better reflection of where our baseline is, because we've had most of our kids in-person instruction for the whole year, and from that point. We'll be able to look at that data and actually use that data to try to develop our needs. There were a couple things that we were trying to get out of that survey, which is the anti-bullying programs and the positive behavior, which will be school-wide or district-wide, K-12. And some of those reading initiatives that we want to
Mhm.
make sure we're bringing back because our Title I population has increased with
Mhm.
our students not having that in-person instruction. And when you talked about the cyber program, we have 2 teachers that they have to do a project for the BLAST IU-17 PIC program, and they're doing a study and an evaluation and a development of where that cyber program should be going. So really by the end of spring, we ought to have a good idea of where we need to move. But, they already have, anecdotally, they know what we need for the next year. So you'll see the administrators talking about that in the budget meeting when it comes to personnel and materials and curriculum design. There's some really good conversation that Mary Elise had. So I think you'll see that. And then once we get those scores back, we know where we need to go then. But the last 2 years, we're not representative. And I even mentioned to Mary Elise, these tests they end up feeling like they're high stakes tests. So even your best students, some of their parents didn't want them taking the test because they didn't want their students reflected poorly if they missed any instruction because of not being there because of COVID. So, we didn't have a good representation either from the lower performers or the higher performers. So I think this year will be, this spring will be the jumping off point for that.
And I think that'll be something interesting to talk about, through the comprehensive plan process too, is what are the assessments that really matter to us? Everybody's really familiar with the state exams. They are very highly publicized. And I think, that is not the only assessment that counts. And it's maybe not the one we care about. I think we have to have that conversation too about what matters to our district.
Yeah, we need to have an assessment that a teacher can really use to change what they're doing in the classroom, not for the district kind of at the 10,000 feet looking down and saying, where are we as a whole? I think it needs to be that granular that your classroom instruction can change based on what data they're being provided. So it has to be, it has to work at that lower level.
Right. So I mean, look, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I don't.
That's something that we've been having discussions about with the comprehensive planning is having that meaningful data collection and not just collecting data for the sake of collecting data, and also forming a plan with, for the future with our teachers of how to use that data effectively, which I think is a little piece that we're needing some reinforcement in. And just an informational item about the PSSAs, our district received the parent copies of the scores from last year. We had them today. So they will be coming in the mail to you, but just, take it for what it's worth considering, the information we discussed this evening.
Well, I think that speaks to what information we get from these kind of tests, right? I mean, over a year later. So it's a good, we need to care about them. We need to pay attention to them. And there's other pieces of data that could actually be more meaningful to our teachers and
piece driving the instruction. There's more meaning. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even current grade assessments, like the here and now of the district, not necessarily waiting a year to get, because what you said is right. Like in the past, it was just like check a box on, we presented the data. It was 8.5 minutes, 14 slides, and no one asked any questions and check the box. So I think one thing we want to figure out too, as we move forward with this committees, smaller committee structure, more nimble, is what reporting does the board want to hear in terms of that? Because we sat in that working session on the 31st, we looked at a whole lot of data together with the administration and worked through that. That's not something we're doing here right now. I think that's a question of maybe something we can talk about in the goals discussion next week of what data does the entire board want to see regularly regarding academics and things like that, not just at the committee level. So we can figure that out. Good deal.
To continue on with the plan that you're working with, your committee idea, we are also on the 21st of February. Part of the day is going to be spent working with our grade level teachers, our departments, finding out what's working for you, what's not working, where are your needs? Because they're afraid to speak up too.
Yeah, for sure.
Good deal. All right, so
I think that's all we have for curriculum unless anyone else.
Personnel.
Request for unpaid time from a professional employee.
Are you good with that?
Anybody have any
Yeah.
questions on that?
I had one additional, we wanted to ask for permission to advertise for the retiree from last month, which would be the high school life skills position to post and advertise.
The first item, do we have to go into executive session, Doug, to talk about that?
What's that for?
The first item,
The one I just read.
the one she just read.
Do we?
I asked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No one answered.
They're reviewing it.
Do we
Yeah,
have
I
to go
mean,
into executive
I mean, if
session?
people have questions, they want to discuss it. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the board's purview.
Yeah.
I would like to.
yeah, I think because of the personnel aspect, I think we would have to go into executive session for some of the questions that you're referring to. We can do that
At the end of the meeting?
immediately following here.
I don't care when, we got it.
All right.
Okay. All right, we can do that.
The only question I had is we were supposed to have a custodian interview and it got canceled. Anything on that?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. We had the date set up and the prospect canceled due to vehicle problems. So I'm waiting to reschedule these guys to get that back in the books again. So I'll let you know when that happens.
Try to make it sure it's later in the day, so board members can be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's this particular participant also works, so it's going to depend on, I guess, that also.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, anyone have anything else?
Yeah. So two things. I did send that email out. I've been in contact with the IU, specifically their executive director, Christina, and what we're going to have a meeting with the IU to discuss the onboarding and search for superintendent and the progression of that process. So there's a couple, I'll get to this when we get to policy and procedure, but it's super important that we bring on legal counsel and make that decision soon. I know we had the general meeting to actually do that, and then some last minute things came up, so we tabled it. So I think, and we'll get to it here in a minute, but the other thing that I wanted to get out there is that Doug did move forward and we received a letter of qualification for hire. So all of Doug's credentials put him in a position where he could apply for and take on the role of superintendent. And he has expressed interest in potentially doing that. So the reason I bring that up, because it's great, but I think that what we're going to need from our legal counsel and the IU is directionally on how to effectively progress towards the search. Because as with Doug as a potential candidate, we'll have to exclude him from the search process. So we have to make that decision fairly rapidly. So that's kind of like declaration that he's in the hunt for that potentially, which is, I think it's great news.
And not only that, but then we're also going to have an opening that would need to be filled as well. A new opening.
We'll worry about that when we get there.
Superintendent search.
Well, we created it. We're in the process of creating a new job description.
Let's try not to leapfrog
Business
too much
manager
here.
/ superintendent. Oh wait, you're already doing that. So yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a pretty simple one. I'm trying to get dates. As I communicated with you guys, they haven't confirmed anything yet. So as soon as they confirm, then we'll just lock some stuff in.
Okay, anything else? And that's it for
I
personnel.
don't know if this is appropriate or not, so stop me, but I just am very overjoyed to hear that Doug threw his hat in the ring. I certainly do not want to speak for everybody, but I probably am okay to say, at least from the admin team. I mean, the direction our district has moved in the past almost 4 months, it just gives me goosebumps. So for what it's worth, Doug, thank you for stepping up and, steering the ship, or the clown car. I don't know which one, for a while there. So just thank you, Doug. That's exciting to hear.
Thanks.
Did you pay for that?
He did not.
Actually, no, it's funny because
paid commercial announcement.
I have to throw in my 2 cents too, because I actually have heard feedback from not only the administration, but some of the teachers and other staff members. So, yeah, I mean, some rave reviews coming around for sure. And yeah, that's it. Enough
He's
said.
paying a
I
lot
could
of
go on. Transportation. Currently nothing. The as far as an agenda item, just circling back around, I know we had some discussions and concerns that maybe there was non-masking or some, and I know I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you guys addressed that pretty rapidly after that day, or maybe that night or the next day, to essentially remind everyone that we still had to follow those guidelines. And
Yeah, and this just came up because I was talking to Linda Hatton. We have multi-year contracts for both the regular transportation runs, the activity runs, and the athletic runs, and both of those contracts will run through the 22-23 school year. So we don't have to consider those until next year. So we just received the subsidy report for those, so we know about what they're going to cost for next year. So that new subsidy data and reimbursement rates for the states for our eligible mileage will be included in the budget. We got that back early this year. It's usually, we're waiting on that in May and June, but we got that back. But just in case you were wondering, we don't do yearly contracts. A number of years ago, we moved to a multi-year. We first went to a 2-year contract, and then we extended it beyond that, because when you have contractors that are buying, $80,000 equipment, the bank likes to know that they're on more than a 1-year contract. So, having that, extended to a multi-year contract, like a 5-year contract, allows them to get better financing terms, and they can keep better equipment that way.
10-4. Anybody else have anything? Last but not least, policy and procedure. Aaron is not available. Mary Elise, do you want to just take that?
Yeah, I can do that. Item number 1 is the proposed 2022-2023 district calendar. Shelley, I think you asked a question about this over email. Did you get an answer?
It is fixed on the one that came in our packet.
Yes, I seen it was fixed.
Yep.
Yes, the one, there was just one date error, January 2nd. That actually had wrong, but
Yep.
that's fixed.
Now, this year, since we applied for FID days for this current year, which are those flexible instruction days, I still have the same number of snow days built in for one particular reason. We don't know if we'll be out of any COVID condition next year. And if you have makeup days, in-person instructional days, if you have to step out for a couple of days, are far superior than trying to provide instruction virtually. So if it comes to the point where we have to be out for 2 or 3 days, we can use those days and come back with in-person instruction. So at least for this next year, I wanted to still consider having all of our makeup days built into the calendar. And then once we work our way out of this, we still have those FID days in our pocket if we need to use them. This school calendar, if you notice, it very closely matches the NTCC, so our VOTEC kids don't miss any days.
Yeah.
So that keeps them on a better calendar than when we start earlier and then they sit around for a week, waiting, not getting instruction, and then they're cheated on the back end. So,
Yeah, I have a question on that,
Yeah.
Doug. I see NTC ends a week earlier than we do, and it doesn't have the
Yep.
week's vacation in there.
Yeah.
What are our VOTEC kids do on those 2 weeks?
well, and they come back, sometimes they have certifications to finish, right? And they, since they're seniors anyway, a lot of, oh, you mean
Yeah,
during that?
That week, see, we have a week we don't have school. Do they go to school that week? Tech kids?
Well, if it's in session,
I'm just asking a question. I'm not
That's
trying
how
to
it
make
would go
I'm
with
not
other
trying to make it
days.
hard.
yeah.
Like sometimes we start or end earlier or later than they do. They go to school
Mm-hmm.
those days.
So they'll go to school that week of vacation, whether or not.
Well, it
I
wouldn't
would
be that
assume
whole
some
week
of those are
because it's,
snow
I know.
makeup
I know.
days.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen this week in here, and we've only once or twice in eons ever actually had that vacation. But I just wondering about the VOTEC kids, and also I was thinking it's like 2 weeks before the PSSAs, so it's like the state championships coming off. So we're going to give the baseball team a week off to think about. You know what I mean? And baseball
well, it
season's
just so
also there.
happens that's when Easter falls,
I know.
Can't move
Yeah,
Easter.
we don't have to have a week off of school. I know how hard it
Yeah.
is to practice wrestling over Christmas vacation, which is a terror. And baseball is kind of the same way. In the middle of the baseball season, we give them a week off, if it happens. That's my only concern.
Well, they can still have practice.
Oh, absolutely. But I understand that. They can still have practice over Christmas, and we always do. But I mean, all the rest of the students who are getting ready for PSSAs, we give them a week off of school right before PSSAs. Then we give them a week of school at the beginning of June. And unless students have changed since when I taught, not much education happens that week. And just a thought.
There is some research out there that I've seen recently that, believe it or not, because I was, a math teacher that taught the tested areas, that sometimes when you give them that break shortly before their actual testing, they perform better. I know. I've always been, you don't want that big break before testing, but I've been that person.
I mean, that's
Tell
something
Glenn
that,
to take a week off before districts start.
I mean, it's something that every district
We'll
deals
kick
with.
it into gear. We'll kick it into gear. Take a week off.
Yeah, it's
We're
something that,
we're getting ready for a big test. Let's take a week off.
I mean, it's something that every district deals with, and I work, the schools I work for at one point put spring break in May, and everyone hated that, to try to avoid that. So I think I'm with Lynn here that if we've done our job, kids will be ready and they can get the little break, and then we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's early enough in April. I mean, we still have instructional time before the test. It just so happens that's when Easter is. And when I talked to the admin team, in order to graduate that week earlier, we would have to take more away than just that. We would end up with about maybe 4 snow days built in, because you can only take away 4 days because that Good Friday is off. And that Easter Monday is off. And that's because our contracts stipulate that our staff gets those days, our year-round staff gets those days off. So those would have to be in anyway. So you'd end up with 4 days. And how do you get 4 days? You still wouldn't finish a week earlier.
Well, you only have 4 school days that last week.
Yeah.
Because the 9th is a in-service day.
But then you're 4 days down.
Yeah, I know. I'm just mentioning.
I mean, so
I'm not
I'm
going to change the whole calendar. I know, but I mean, I just mentioned it. I noticed that, and I noticed a VOTEC school ends a week early. I wouldn't even have thought about it. VOTEC school ends June 2nd.
I do have one thing I'm wondering about, but I've asked a lot of questions here. I didn't want to. Did anyone else have something before I ask my next question? I mean, I'm wondering about the in-service and the clerical days. Spring is usually a time where you get to plan for the year ahead, and you might need that time with your staff. And so there's one in February, and then there's that last closeout day in June. Do we have any? I mean, that's kind of my question. That gets back to the needs idea. Do we need another day in there? Is this just what we've done in the past?
We're currently in negotiation. So again, that's another contractual matter. This, of course, if it was negotiated differently, which was, I can neither confirm nor deny that, calendar was approached. But that the calendar would have to be revisited at that point. But from what we know now, which you continue as if it would remain consistent, this would be that calendar.
So we'd have to renegotiate to get more clerical days, in-service days. Got it.
Yes.
We also talked about Act 80 Day if we needed it at that time as well.
Yeah. See, that was what I think I brought up in that curriculum meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We start moving forward with some of these programs, and it might be in July that they say, well, hey, we really need 2 days to get this initiative off and running. And so, we'll be coming to the board with a change in the calendar for an Act 80.
Okay.
So
as long as it's something we can do down the road, if we identify, needs.
Yeah.
That was my question. Really.
As long as we meet the state requirements for the 180 days or the 900 and 990, this should be a living document. As makeup days happen, as instructional days change, as contracts change, it should be kept accurate to what we're actually doing. But as long as we're meeting that requirement, we can change as a board.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts about the calendar?
Yeah, I think when we made the motion on the 7th of December, we made it purposefully to include the wording that the board would undertake an evaluation of the committee structure and may propose a change at a later date. So I think we need to make a motion on Tuesday to restructure how we're going to do the committees. If it's actually going to, if it's going to work, we have to try it, which would eliminate the reoccurring Tuesday meeting. So we have to come up with a little bit of language on how that motion is going to be presented before next Tuesday.
Do you want to do that now?
We can, if you guys want to try to undertake it. It's really not that complicated. I just think that we need to, we do not need to establish and you don't need to set your dates for the rest of the year. So I think the wording needs to be based around, are they on the calendar now?
No, it's on the board calendar that's posted for Sunshine Law or Sunshine Act.
So we also won't video broadcast them.
No, and you don't need to.
And I know, well, that's fine. And so we won't have to, after this one, we won't have to broadcast the Finance Committee, which probably will end up meeting on this Tuesday.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say in an effort of time, we don't necessarily have to figure it out right now, but we can. I don't know if there's a real simple way to do this without.
Yeah. And I mean, if we have, one committee, and I think there was another committee that said they'd probably meet after finance. If you did have a Tuesday committee, you could still, if the board as a whole wanted to meet to get something out to the public, we could still have, since we're holding it here, we could still broadcast if we needed to.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah. So, I mean, since we're here and the mechanics are in place, just something to consider in that.
Yeah, I think we talked about athletics and health meeting with finance because it's only one member off from the two committees. But I think that will something to be hashed out because it sounds funny, but of all committees, I don't think athletics and health won't have none for a month. So it might just, never mind, don't mind me.
All right, we'll work on some wording to look at before next meeting. The other thing is, I think we need to make a move on solicitor next meeting or on Tuesday. Right now, we had Cat Stevens and McNerney Page as the two potentials. I don't think we got any other. Did you say you had one other inquiry?
I said I received a call from McCormick from the McCormick firm from Williamsport, but they haven't returned anything to me. So I'm not sure what's taking so long for everyone to return calls and emails and everything else. I did provide Gabe with an email from
John Audi.
Yeah, from John Aldi from the Sweet Stevens Cats, that he would be the assigned counsel and he would be available on the Tuesdays that we need him.
So I would say, again, I don't know that we have to 100% assess this now, but before, if you guys could kind of ponder on, I think we should probably get clarification based on our last committee meeting or on our last general meeting, I'm sorry. Get clarification from McNerney Page. I know we had a conversation about their acquisition of Holland and then try to get I think we need to identify two things. How would they do it? Because Anthony had a good point last time. We were talking about like, are we going to have an assigned solicitor that's going to be here every time? And Anthony was like, well, hey, it wouldn't be so bad if we didn't, because it would have a different view of, if someone came in, it's really the guardrails that we need to do things right. So I don't necessarily think they need to declare that it's going to be John every single, I don't know that we're hung up on that, but I think that identification of, I'm kind of with Hal a bit that I think you had said at last meeting, if the firm that's kind of driving for the position, if they don't want to adjust to our already scheduled meetings, then I would say that that's not a real driver for truly wanting the position.
That's not a real good sign if they don't want to adjust to us.
I mean, I don't know that that they've come back and confirmed like, hey, we can't change anything or we're not going to change anything, but
We'll get that.
That's where it's at.
Okay.
Cool.
Was there more on that? We just skipped over the procedural item here. So I just wanted to.
In this, the election of directors of the last IU-17 board, each year, each board member gets a ballot that you either agree to the slate of of members for the blast board or you don't, and then we turn that in to them and then they count them individually. So it's not the majority of the boards, it's the majority of all the members within IU-17 voting for those members. So lots of times it's either an up, down vote from our board, but in this particular one, everyone gets a ballot. So.
Okay.
I think that's it for policy and procedure, unless there's anything else. Okay.
All right. No one has anything else. We'll go into short executive for personnel matters.
Take us off, Lance.
Will do.